All right, it is 6:30 and we have a quorum. So I would like to announce that this meeting, the Seguin Independent School District, has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. At this time, I'd like to invite some of the students from the Ball Early Childhood Center to come up and lead us in the pledge. Any of you students like to come forward? Your parents can come with you. Oh, they're outside?
Yes, they are. Do you want them?
Sure. We'd like to see them.
Everybody put your right hand on your heart. Okay, we're going to look at the United States flag first, all right? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you so much for holding us down.
After that wonderful beginning, we're going to take a few moments for a moment of silence. Okay. Moving on, Dr. Gutierrez, you have some announcements for us.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Seguin ISD community. I would like to take this opportunity to share information and update you on a few of our events and initiatives. Earlier this month, I hosted community forums during the evenings of November the 1st and the 2nd. I appreciate the community members who attended to share their input and feedback as we make progress toward a comprehensive strategic plan for the district. We had about 43 respondents to the online survey for those individuals who were unable to make the community forums. I also want to recognize the work of our varsity volleyball team for making the first round of playoffs in the district contest at Lehman High School on October the 30th. From there, the girls advanced to area playoffs and beat Richardson on November the 2nd. They continued to advance and played an extremely exciting regional quarterfinal match against Kerrville-Tybee, where our Matadors came up slightly short. Congratulations to our volleyball team for another great season, and a special thanks to Coach Stanley and her staff for their guidance and leadership. As our community is well aware, we lost Annabelle Pomeroy, a 7th grader at Breezy Meister Middle School. during the senseless tragedy that occurred in Sutherland Springs on November the 5th. I appreciate the work of our counseling and support staff for the services that they provided for our students and for campus staff. As a show of respect for those who were touched by this tragedy, we postponed the November 6th State of the District presentation and rescheduled it for November the 27th at 6:30 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center at Seguin High School. I want to express my deepest condolences to the Pomeroy family. They remain in my thoughts and in my prayers. Today I experienced my first surprise patrol courtesy of the Seguin Education Foundation. Each year these volunteers who do so much to support our schools deliver checks to teachers who have applied for classroom grants. Today the Seguin Education Foundation representatives awarded 22 grants totaling nearly $65,000 to teachers across 12 campuses. The best part of today's campus visits was the sheer joy expressed by teachers when they were told their application had been chosen for financial support. Thanks to the members of the Mighty Matador Band for accompanying the surprise patrol, and a big thank you to the Seguin Education Foundation and those who generously contributed toward their efforts. Just a few upcoming events. Tomorrow, beginning at 5 p.m., the Band Booster Barbecue Plate and Auction Fundraiser will take place at the Seguin Coliseum. You are invited to come out and support our award-winning middle and high school band programs, as well as see them perform. On November the 27th, we will hold the State of the District presentation at the Performing Arts Center from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And Educate Seguin has agreed to co-sponsor this event and provide refreshments. Businesses or organizations interested in co-sponsoring future State of the District events are encouraged to contact the district office at 830-401-8609. The District Strategic Planning Committee will meet on December the 11th and the 12th. And last but certainly not least, a week-long Thanksgiving holiday is next week, and I know that our teachers and our students are looking forward to this very well-deserved break. It is my hope that everyone enjoys a safe Thanksgiving with family and friends, and I look forward to continuing our positive momentum upon our November 27th return. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. Moving on, where each of the board members is going to give a short report on what we've been up to since our last meeting. Mr. Holt.
Thank you, Madam President. Since our last meeting, I've attended the opening night of the Seguin High School Theater Arts production of Peter Pan Jr. It was a great production. We had several people on hand there. I'd say there were probably about 150, 200 people attending that. Attended 3 football games, one in Marble Falls, one here, and then one in Bernie. I also attended the UIL area marching contest where the Mighty Matador Band performed in what I can say is very cold weather, to the point that it affected their horns, as those of you in the audience are shaking their heads. They did place 13th out of 33 in the area, even with the cold horns, so I'm very proud of them. They did an awesome job. Also attended the playoff round 1 and round 3 playoff games of volleyball. Congratulations to our Matador volleyball ladies. Great job. One of those volleyball ladies actually signed, Kaylee Conan, signed after round 3 with I'll call it Southwest Texas, but it's Texas State. It'll always be Southwest Texas to me, though. She signed with Texas State to play volleyball with them, so that was an awesome thing for her. So I attended that ceremony. Also, I've been attending a construction meeting for the high school. Just to give an update on that, the south parking lot will be is scheduled to be completed and usable first week of December, provided there are no further weather delays. And they're also doing the final punch list checkoffs on the interior. Also participated in the Seguin Veteran Days Memorial Program on Friday. Thank you to Dr. Gutierrez and his staff for putting that on. It's always a pleasure to recognize the veterans that serve in this district, and we have so many of them, and it's just a great honor. Also, just before coming to this meeting tonight, I went over to the 7th grade B team Barnes Breezy game. AJB did win that game 26-6. Toros, doing Toros in the house. But as I was leaving, the 18 7th graders were starting, so good luck to them. And then the 8th graders will go on at 7:30 tonight, so let's keep this short, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. I attended football and volleyball games as well, and I'm looking forward to basketball season to start soon. I also went to opening night of Peter Pan, and it was a lot of fun. And then the second night of the show, I actually worked the box office, which was, I wanted to see how well you could hear in there and talk with people, and it's a very high-class little box office. I am on the Education Foundation, and we met with our grants committee. We met with a number of people from the leadership team to talk about some of the grants that had been submitted and came up with our list of winners. We presented those to the entire Education Foundation board in a quarterly meeting, and those were approved. And then, as Dr. Gutierrez said, we had our surprise patrol this morning. I didn't get to go to all the schools, but I went to a few of them, and it is always very, very exciting. I went to the McQueenie Carnival a couple of weeks ago, and it was a chilly night, but people seemed to be enjoying themselves despite I think it was windy. I think it was windy and chilly. And then later on in the month, the theater program had an improv night. It was a fundraising event, and it was a lot of fun to watch those students just doing that improv, just on their toes and working fast. It was a lot of fun, and I think they were very pleased with their first fundraising event in the new Performing Arts Center. All right, Mr. Amador.
The past few weeks, I've also been involved with the building committee to see the condition and the status of the high school. And hopefully next month may be my last report on that. I've also been attending the facilities committee. Well, we've been looking at schools. And the teachers have been very forthcoming with what they saw as needed improvements. And also principals, assistant principals. I would thank you all for everything you've helped us out with, and we're still continuing to look at facilities. If you have any questions or more issues, let us know.
I too attended the volleyball games, and I get so excited during the volleyball games it was hard for me to actually go and sit still and try to not yell and scream and everything else that goes on there. But I had a good time. It was I attended a couple of football games at the end of this month. My son plays football, so get to see that. We did go see Peter Pan. Peter Pan was a pretty amazing production. It really struck me in right here. The students did an amazing job. With Mr. Amador, we've been touring the schools and checking on facilities and things like that. It's been an eye-opening experience, and got to meet a lot of nice principals and teachers and lots of students, and so it's been very rewarding in that respect. One thing that really stands out this month was I was invited to Potlon for the academic family night, and I got to read to a whole bunch of little guys, and I read Skippy John Jones to them. It was a pretty intense book. It was something you don't actually never had read before, and I had 5 minutes to prep and got through the whole book, and the kids stayed in tune and really enjoyed it. And then I got to visit with some of the other teachers and the kids and so forth. It was really fun. So really enjoyed that, and hope to do it again soon.
Okay, Ms. Rhea?
Good evening. So, so I went to the special ed department. Has a special Halloween event here at central office, and that was a blast. I'm really looking forward to the next one for Christmas. I attended the Herald's Angels improv troupe with Miss Thomas Jimenez, and then the Veterans Day ceremony. That was really nice. I just want to announce a few upcoming events in case we have parents that might want to go. Vogel Carnival is this Thursday from 5 to 7. The Barnes Theater Show, 7 Nasty Princesses, is November 16th and 17th. And Breezy Arts and Science Night is November 28th.
Mr. Flores.
Yes, ma'am. Attended a couple of athletic events, but unfortunately, due to work, I've been traveling quite a bit for the last month, so was unable to attend some other functions within the school district. So that would be it for me.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to section 2 of the agenda. We have campus recognition presentations, and I believe we're going to start out with Ball Early Childhood. Mr. Hoffman.
I'm really excited to show off our ball students. They're going to be performing a dance that they perform at our Hug a Bear presentation. So I can't wait to show them all to you. Yes,
You want it towards you or towards the audience?
so, all right, face mom stack.
Face mom stack.
boys and girls and parents. We appreciate you coming in this evening. I know it's probably cutting into dinner hour, so we really appreciate it. Great performance. That's why we do what. That's why we're sitting up here right now, because of things like that. That's right. Okay, moving on to the agenda for our Matador Award of Excellence. I believe Mr. Hoffman, is this one you? Oh, it's Dot. Dot. Okay, Ms. Whitman.
Good evening. That's a hard act to follow, but this is also another exciting time from our students. We also have some very special employees we'd like to recognize tonight. We have 4, and we have their supervisors here with us, and they'll explain why they were selected as the Matador Award of Excellence recipient for the first quarter. So first, I'm going to call up our first recipient is Cab Caparello, or Arnolfo Caparello, and his supervisor, Bo Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. That was awesome, wasn't it? That's why we get up in the morning. Pretty little dollars are great. It was great. My name is Robert Bo Gonzalez. I'm your maintenance coordinator. This is Arnulfo Caballero, one of our carpenters for the maintenance department. He's been with us since 2012. This past summer and this past beginning of the school year, this man, not alone, but he did take on a very big task with some help, but he stepped up and helped us key and core this brand new beautiful building that we have over here on 13th, 15th East Cedar. We sat down and went through so many numbers, so many combinations, so many things and scenarios that we can get to get this done, and this man just stood up, took the challenge, took the task, and did a very, very awesome job. Just that building alone, but also taking care of all the other school districts, all the other campuses in the school district. Right there and there, Mr. Cab, I'm very proud of you. Thank you for doing all your hard work, and greatly appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Jacob Galvan with the food service and Elaine Manzuk.
Members of the board, administration, and the community, thank you for taking the time to honor the employees like this. I know it means a lot for us having them on board, and I'm sure it means a lot to them working tirelessly day after day, and it's nice to know that they get the recognition that they deserve, because Elaine, she's been with us for a few years already, and she has worked at a few different districts or schools already, not districts, schools, and she's currently at the high school, which is a brand new facility. So moving into that building, we knew there was going to be some challenges. We knew there was going to be some getting familiar with the surroundings, and Elaine, she definitely took on everything in stride. She had a lot of duties that she voluntarily picked up. She makes sure that we get everything handled greatly and efficiently at the building, and she's definitely one of the best employees that we have, and it's not always easy to pick out just one that deserves the award, but definitely this first quarter, Elaine, she was a rising star, and we couldn't be prouder to have her on board, and we're definitely excited to keep her with us, and she definitely deserves this award. So Elaine Mangzuk.
Next, from Kennedy Elementary, we have our attendance clerk, Shannon McDonald, and she was nominated by her principal, Cindy Moreno.
Good evening, board, Dr. Gutierrez, Mrs. Thomas. I am extremely proud of the lady I have standing next to me. It's very difficult to run a campus. There's so many hands that I have to have in every hard department of my school. To know that I have attendance taken care of, I don't have to think twice about that area, is a huge relief and asset to my campus. So I appreciate the time and effort that she has put forth. It's a true testament to the care that we have for each child. We want them there, we want them learning, and to have you on my team is a true blessing. So thank you for this opportunity to recognize her, and thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Our last recipient was nominated by the leadership team, and we would like to bring up Mr. Pete Silvius. It is my honor to be part of the nomination committee for Pete as the Matador Award of Excellence this quarter. He is one of the most dedicated, well-trained, kind educators that I know. He spends countless hours of his own time to prepare activities for students, staff, and our parents. His focus on the whole child is very apparent. He prioritizes his activities on how he can help students better in every area, physically, emotionally, and academically. He is very strategic in what he does in keeping what's best in mind for kids. Not only does Pete take care of hundreds of kids in Seguin ISD, he is also the president-elect for the statewide taper organization, where he has taken Seguin on the map. I tell Pete each week that I look at him, watching him plan, and I'm tired just watching him going in and out of his office. Pete, Seguin ISD is very fortunate to have you on staff in such a critical role on helping the whole child. We thank you and your family, or we thank your family for giving so much of your time to spend with our kids. Thank you, Pete.
We did note that Pete is never in the office and he gets this award.
Sorry, something to that.
Guys, what I'll do is, honorees, if y'all don't mind going out in the hallway and we'll get a photo.
Before you all go, just want to extend my appreciation for everything you do for our students every day. And I'm glad that your work was recognized this evening. Thank you.
And I'd like to say the same. And you know, a lot of you are working behind the scenes and we don't see you on a daily basis, but we certainly do appreciate your work. So thank you so much. All right, moving on to item 3, audience with the board. And we do have a few people signed up today, so I'm going to read the ground rules. So in accordance with board policy BED local, those wishing to speak shall sign up before the meeting, stating the concern or the agenda item which they wish to address. Audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. An audience of more than 5 persons shall appoint a representative, and the board shall not deliberate any subject that is not on the posted agenda. So first up, we have Mr. Luis Moreno, and he's interested in talking about item 4C, which is the child nutrition program procedures for student overcharges of meal accounts. Mr. Moreno.
Thank you. And good evening. I just realized sitting back there, I think this is the first time I'm here in front of you all with the new 4 trustees. So it's been a little while. But I'm here today to advocate for an issue that's important to me. The formal agenda item is the child nutrition program procedures for student overcharges of meal accounts. I call it the lunch shaming policy. I want to thank President Thomas Jimenez for meeting with me several weeks ago to discuss this important issue. It's important to me because I was once on the free and reduced lunch program. And unlike other services or programs that trustees get to discuss on a regular basis, this issue is not discussed very often, and in my opinion, is one that can make a significant difference in the lives of many students. While I don't know all the statistics, I do know that the percentage of economically disadvantaged students at our elementary schools range from Weinert at 56.6% to Jefferson at 85.7%. And I can assume that many of those students are either on a free or reduced lunch. You have read in your packet in the FAQ that was provided that students are allowed to overcharge the equivalent of 2 full-price lunches, or $5.60. The document also tells you that even when the student exceeds the charge limit, a meal is provided to the student at no charge. What the document doesn't make clear is that too many times the student will go through the line, get the hot food plate, and when he or she gets to the cash register, and if the account is delinquent more than $5.60, that food will be taken from the student, thrown away in the trash, and given a sandwich and milk. This is lunch shaming. Dr. Gutierrez, I haven't had the opportunity to discuss this issue with you, but I have heard you speak, I have seen your tweets, and I am moved by your story. I know you know what it would feel like to be in that child's shoes. Dr. Gutierrez, board members, this is an opportunity to engage students with poverty in mind. As stated in the first chapter of the book that everyone in this district is talking about, when kids don't eat well, or when they don't eat at all, their behavior suffers and they have a tougher time learning. Mr. Hilberg might mention during his presentation that current policy does have a fiscal note. If I remember correctly, it's approximately $12,000 a year, and any changes to this policy could increase that amount. That said, I know that Mr. Hilberg also managed to find $1 million for a scoreboard and was somehow able to identify another $500,000 to buy a radio station. In other words, I have full confidence that the cost can be covered and then Mr. Hilberg can find the funding for any changes to this policy. Also, the handbook makes it clear that all delinquent accounts must be paid prior to a transfer or graduation. So while you discuss this item this evening, I hope that the discussion you have keeps the focus on the students and that we are not punishing our children for the behavior of their parents. Dr. Gutierrez, if we want to follow that book, and if we emphasize that we are a family, then tell me what family member would take away your food after it's already in your hands. Our kids deserve a great day every day. They need caring adults at home and at school. Actions speak louder than words, so why not adjust our policy to focus on our children? And Dr. Bob Stevens will follow me with some recommendations that we've discussed with Educate Seguin that you might consider as a board this evening. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Stevens?
Good evening. As Luis so eloquently stated, lunch shaming is wrong. It's a practice that should be eliminated from our schools. And it's a practice that if you aren't sure, it does actually happen because I've had parents in my office describe it to me. I would like to take his suggestion and turn it into some suggestions for concrete action that you might consider for our district. He referenced the book Teaching with Poverty in Mind. One of the critical factors that Eric Jensen describes is health and nutrition. In fact, it's the first one that he describes. And in order to engage with our students, I propose that it's time for Seguin ISD to innovate around its food service program and make certain that every child has a full stomach and is in school ready to learn. To that end, in our discussions, we have come up with the following 4 things that we submit for your consideration. We would like you to consider extending the current 2-meal limit for students with a $0 balance in their meal account. The current policy is that notifications are only sent to the parent about a delinquency in their account once a week, but yet a 2-meal limit is only 2 days. So those things don't align. In addition, notifications are only sent via a note in the backpack, and if you don't go through your child's backpack, which I suspect many parents from my own experience don't, the parent may not be receiving that notice in a timely fashion. Second, we'd like you to explore the underutilization potentially of the free and reduced lunch program by those families who are eligible. Currently, form goes home in the mail at registration and it's returned. And I think a more proactive outreach policy to case find students whose families would qualify for this program could be a benefit. We know of cases in which parents have returned paperwork for one family member, but not for another, and so one child in the family is on the free reduced lunch program and one is not. And I think data mining could uncover some additional cases where we could provide free and reduced lunch to children. There is a program sponsored by the United States Department of Agriculture called the Community Eligibility Program, which could be used to provide a free lunch to all students in this district. The district does qualify. There are financial ramifications to that, but we feel that it is something that is worthy of being explored. And finally, we would suggest that the district explore partnering with community nonprofits to reduce food waste. Current Texas statute allows the school district to partner with nonprofit organizations to utilize unused food from school lunch programs for the community. There's two ways that this potentially could happen. One way is that a nonprofit could come into the school, gather the food, especially, for instance, hot food that can't be stored, and take it to, for instance, a shelter in the community or a nursing home so that it could be utilized and rather than thrown away. Second, and more interestingly for Educate Seguin, is a nonprofit could partner with the district to offer essentially an in-food school bank at each campus. Unused packaged foods, fruits and vegetables, things that are not hot and highly perishable, could be stored at the campus in a central location where a nonprofit coordinator, who could also perhaps be on staff at the school, could then oversee its collection and distribution. That would obviously require guidelines and further research, as would all of these initiatives. But we think that, well, we know that hunger is a serious issue. Food insecurity is a serious issue in this community. I know it personally in my practice because we ask every family about it and are surprised by the number of people who report that they have difficulty with food security on a monthly basis. And so it directly impacts learning of the students in this district, and we feel that there are solutions. And there are opportunities to innovate, and we would ask that you consider some of those opportunities, and we would be very happy to and excited to partner with you in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 4, we have our reports, starting off with 4A, the Seguin Early College High School update. Is Emily Segarza and her team?
Good evening, Dr. Gutierrez and esteemed board members. It is an honor to be here presenting to you on Early College High School for a variety of reasons, but the most important being the folks that are standing behind me and sitting behind me as well. We're going to go through a few slides. The students are going to assist me with the slides as well, and then at the very end they're going to get a chance to share their perspective of Early College High School with you. So I'm not going to bore you with just me this time. I have some much better representation of Early College High School. So this is our first year that we are fully Early College High School, all grade levels. So we have 4 cohorts of Early College High School. We will also have our first graduating class of Early College High School, which is very exciting and very emotional for me at the same time because of how proud I am of the students. So another impact about Early College High School is the impact that it's had on TSIA readiness. So the TSI assessment test, on the 16-17 taper report, you have that in your hands as well. You can see that as a campus, we have significantly grown and shown success on the TSI assessment in both ELA and math, which is extremely exciting considering the starting point of where we did start. So again, the fact that we surpassed the state is very exciting. A brief overview, again, I won't go through all of this. You have that in your presentation handout as well regarding the breakdown of cohort 2018. And the reason why I'm highlighting on 2018 is because it's going to come fast and furious, and whether they realize it or not, they're going to be walking the stage at St. Philip's College in May, and shortly after that, our own graduation ceremony as well. So they will walk the stage at St. Philip's College first before they go or participate in our graduation ceremony. We will have a total of 36 students of the class of 2018 graduate with their associate's degree, which is very exciting.
Good evening. Oh, sorry. Last year, in fall of last year, the total number of enrollment and students enrolled in early college high school was 408 students, and as of fall of this year, that number has risen to 608, which is very impressive and very exciting for the district as a whole. I'm excited to be graduating this year and being a part of the early college high school. It's been a great experience.
So in this slide, we can look at the fall 2017 dual credit demographics. The Hispanics are 53% white, 42% black, 3% Asian, 1% 2 or more, 1% as well. I would like to point out that the demographics of dual credit now mirrors the campus and district demographics.
Hello. So as on the slide, from 2014 to 2016, we earned a total of 408 college credits. Wow, that's amazing, just to start off right off the bat. From 2015 to 2016, we earned a total of 723. And until the next year, 2016 to 2017, we earned 2,478. Wow. Yes. And then recently this fall, 2017, we earned a total of 1,887. And the number of students taking dual credit courses in the spring will increase slightly as well. So this accumulated over to $381,174 for parents and students. That's a very good penny saver for everybody. That's awesome, I believe. And that's a great experience for everybody. So, yeah.
Thank you, students. A few things to review with you, board members, and Dr. Gutierrez, is that effective 2018-2019, TEA will roll out, or has rolled out, a new blueprint design that they're going to hold us accountable for. So in the past, we had a blueprint that we had to abide to. It was somewhat of a checklist that we had to abide by. Now we will have outcome-based measures. And so in 2018-19, there will still be 6 benchmarks on the blueprint, but we will be held accountable. If we don't meet certain areas, we will be classified as needs improvement. So that is something new for for ECHS. It will also impact the designation application that we submit. Typically, the application is submitted in December. Because TEA is still outlining some of the questions or evaluation pieces, they're anticipating to roll out the application in the spring this year versus rolling it out effective October when it usually is. So it'll be a quick turnaround time, and we'll have to make sure that our application matches each one of the new benchmarks and the outcome-based measures as well. We did meet with our TEA ECHS coach today. As a matter of fact, we had a 3.5-hour meeting with TEA regarding expectations for the school year, expectations for our designation application, and so on. We will be expected to meet with TEA 5 more times this year regarding the process, and so that's also something new this year. They will be working closely with us to help us follow and guide us through the new blueprint. In regards to our MOU and our partnership with Alamo Colleges and St. Philip's, we did have an MOU. We went through every single page of the MOU 2 weeks ago. As a campus and as a district, we addressed the areas that we think need to be fixed on the MOU. So we did submit suggestions and recommendations, and they will be getting the MOU back to us shortly so that we can present it to you all as well. And now, what I'm going to have the students do is just share briefly their perspective with you. This is a part that I always get very emotional on because these students have been by my side since their 8th grade year. And they've worked very diligently, they've worked very hard, and at the same time, they are some of the most humble students that I know. So humble, smart, amazing, I can continue to brag about them, but I want them to brag about themselves, which isn't easy for them, by the way. So I'd like to introduce Kayla Sanchez.
Good evening again, Dr. Gutierrez and his esteemed board members. So I chose the associate's pathway. I chose the associate's pathway because I saw it as a great opportunity to be a part of. This granting is a blessing in itself, and I wanted to appreciate its value. I have always had the drive to go to college, and I saw this as a chance to seize the chance to actually make that dream into a reality. My goals after high school is to hopefully take the role as a pediatric dentist. I always had that drive within me to give back to my community and give back to the fellow kids who I just want to put a smile on their face. My pathway supports my goals because it allows me to have a head start on my college education, granting that dental school is 8 years in itself plus bachelor's degree, and then another 2 years of residency. That's going to be a while, so I'm happy to have a head start on my way through my life. So I am not a first-generation student because my mother, Rosemary Sanchez, we actually started college together. She went back to school whenever I started freshman year in 2014. And I'm proud to see that she recently graduated from LVN school from Victoria College, and she recently started again at Milan Institute to become a massage therapist. So I'm very proud of her. And because of her, I want to reach all the ends that seem impossible. She's my role model, my hero, and most importantly, my beautiful mother. So I recently applied to UTSA, University of Houston, Texas State, and Houston Baptist University, and I'm proud to say that I got accepted into all of them. Yes. Now it's the tough decision to decide where to go. But Early college high school means a lot to me. I am so grateful to have been granted this opportunity once again that has been given to my peers and myself. And especially since that it's for free. Being someone who has had first-hand experience with financial circumstance, that was such a great, it was so great to be able to say, look, we're here to pay for your college and we're here to help you, give you initiative to be someone better in life and be someone who's going to go places. So, yes. I'm excited to say that we'll be the first class to graduate with the associate's degree, and it's just mind-boggling how I'll be able to say we graduated college before we graduated high school. This program has opened many doors for me. I am blessed and happy to have been able to have shared this experience with everyone. So thank you, Seguin ISD, and thank you, Ms. Garza, for coming to our school and giving us a chance. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Gutierrez and esteemed board members. My name is Maria Flores. I chose the Associate's Pathway. I chose the Associate's Pathway because since I was just a little girl, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. As I grew up, I started to realize that getting a PhD wasn't as easy as I thought. There was a lot of school ahead of me, and the education required was tremendously. I started to become aware of the education that was necessary for me to accomplish this goal. I knew that my parents did not have the money to help me go to college, and I knew for a fact that I was not going to be able to accomplish this by myself. When Ms. Garza first went to my middle school to talk to us about the early college program, I knew this was the extra hand I needed to make my dream come true. I knew that with the associate's degree pathway, I was going to be able to make both of my parents proud and my two younger sisters. I am beyond blessed to be part of this program. I will be the first one in my family to graduate from high school and attend to college. Thank you.
Good evening once again. My name is Hunter Stiles. I am also in the Associate's Degree pathway. I chose this pathway because of just the opportunity that it is. You can't walk around and go to any other high school in the state or in the country and say that I can graduate college before I graduate from high school. It's not out, the opportunity isn't out there for everybody. And I'm blessed to be able to have that opportunity. But as I said before, I may not fully realize it at the moment. I like to try to feel like I understand the weight of what we have done the past 4 years. But more so 10 years from now, when I'm off doing becoming a CPA and starting my life, my family, that the choices that I made now hugely affected me later in life, and I'm glad that I had made this decision. My goals after high school, attend college. At the moment, I have been accepted to Texas State and am awaiting processing for TLU. So we'll see. Hopes up. But as I said before, after high school, my goals are to go to college and become hopefully be able to take my CPA test through the Macy program at Texas State or TLU, and start my life from there forward, pushing forward. What ECHS has meant to me is it's been, as I said before, it was an opportunity like no other. But it's my high school experience. It's the thing I'm going to look back on 10, 20, 30, 40. This is what I'm going to tell my kids, my grandkids about. This was the experience that I had in high school. It's what I'll always remember, and I can never thank anybody enough for it. My peers, my teachers, administrators, all of you, I can never thank you enough for that. And so I leave you with a thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Poth, and I have always been told, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to college. Like, that was never an option in my life. My parents didn't want me to make the same mistakes that they made, and so if there was a will, if there was a way, they were going to send me to college. So not even freshman year, 8th grade year, when the lovely Miss Annalisa Garza showed up at my middle school, my mom jumped on the opportunity. And she was like, you have to do this, Katie. Like, you don't understand the impact it's going to have yet, but you have to do it. So I signed up for my TSIs and all of that. And freshman year, I started taking dual credit classes. And the impact that has had on my life is immeasurable. I honestly probably would not have even thought about the pathway in college that I'm thinking of going through, because I did not like math until I started taking college algebra and economics, and I was like, ooh, finance is cool. I like working with this and numbers. This is awesome. And it has impacted me so much in so many ways that I can't even tell y'all. I've gotten accepted into the University of Texas and Texas State. So now it's just a matter of who's going to give me more scholarship money, you know? Yeah. But the early college high school has meant so much to me, and I want to get my master's, and had I not been able to do this program and get 2 years out of the way, financially that would not have been possible for me, because I am left to pay for college on my own. I have 4 younger siblings, and my parents can't handle, the expenses of college on top of all those other little people. But I'm so thankful for everything that you guys, my administrators, my teachers have done for me, because they've truly shaped who I am and the experience that I've had with my peers in high school. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Gutierrez and board members. My name is Brandon Palomares, and I chose the Core Complete pathway. I chose the Core Complete pathway because it allowed me to get, I think, to what we calculated like this week, like 46 college hours already. And as the life of an athlete, I admire what they do, get the associate's degree, do your thing, but that just wasn't for me. I'm a full-time athlete, and it allowed me to excel both on and off the field in the classroom. As far as goals after high school, I'm definitely going to college. I am the first in my family to go to college. I've applied to UT recently, like last week, and and I've applied to A&M and Texas Tech today. And right now I'm kind of leaning more towards A&M, and assuming I go to A&M, I'm gonna speak it into existence. I will be going to the Mays Business School, and you first going to, yeah. And I have applied to UT, A&M, and as far as what the early college high school means to me, although I am the first in my family to go to college, the thought of education itself, was never allowed to be undermined in my household. Growing up with a single mother, I mean, she couldn't stress enough how important it is. She knows that education is my way out, and I'm aware, and I plan on taking full advantage of that. And that's one thing early college high school has allowed me to do. I'm beyond thankful. I'm grateful for this opportunity. It means so much, like words can't even explain. And yeah, it's terrific. I don't even know. Like, and we have great students in the Seguin ISD district. Like, the four of them are sitting behind me. That like we will take advantage of opportunities like this, and like we will. Like, thank you. It means so much. And that's as much as I have to say. Thank you.
Before we conclude, I just want to point out that the students are they're full-time college students. They're taking anywhere from 4 to 5 dual credit classes this semester. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. It's so inspirational, and I'm so proud of all of you and everybody else in the program, and I can't help but think that perhaps Mr. Flores is feeling a lot of pride right now. He was a big part of bringing the early college high school to Seguin ISD. So let's give him a round of applause. And we look forward to seeing y'all in the spring. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item 4B, Dr. Gordo, we have the 85th Texas Legislative Session and TASB update.
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Gutierrez, board members. Again, there's been talk about the legislative session, and indeed, we as people in Texas, every 2 years, we change laws pretty much. And it takes time for those to be implemented. Now, as I've shared with you in previous superintendent updates, now all of them, all the laws having to do with education, they become effective immediately as they're passed. Then they become law. The Senate bills, House bills, then they become laws. Now, while they all have to be implemented, they become effective immediately. Not all of them are becoming effective immediately. So they're all laws, but they have different timelines in which they become implemented. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what we've been doing as far as those laws and how some of them are indeed affected by the policies that you will adopt based on the legal, because you will be adopting local policy. And then there's others that are not affected by policy that you have to approve. They're just actions that we have to take. is public schools. So let me walk you a little bit through that. Okay, so this past spring, in January, the 85th legislation started. And it was in two parts because they finished in May, but then they called a special session to continue with some of the bills they still needed to be discussed. So again, that happened. Now after that, then TASB, which is a provider for policies, then sends us an update. And it's still in the process. We're expecting it electronically. Parts of it have already come, but then the actual packet, we're expecting it within this week or next week. Next week will be off, it'll be Thanksgiving. So you can see how from August the 15th, when the special session closed, to now it's several months. Well, some actions have to occur prior to that. And we've been proactive on those pieces, but again, we're still anticipating for the updated 109 to be coming within the next week or so. And we anticipate about 120 policies that you will be looking at within the legal, the local, and also exhibits. That's why this, Dr. Gutierrez also felt that it was important because for most of you, this is the first time in which we'll be looking at a whole packet that is a result of a session. And just to walk you on those things. Now, what do I mean by some actions, some of the policies and laws that happen are not impacted by what you would be adopting? For example, Senate Bill 1091, it limits the number of courses that may be designated as dual credit. And you just heard a little bit about what Ms. Garza talked about, how those blueprints are changing. That is part of that. But there's no policy attached to that. But obviously, we have to become aware in order to be proactive and take action on some things that need to occur. Something else, for example, that is not part of a policy is House Bill 1886. That has to do with dyslexia screening. Now the law says that at the end of kindergarten and at the end of first grade, we have to screen for dyslexia for the students. It's not part of a policy, but it's something that is already in the district's handbook, that principals became aware of that in the summer. So that's how important it is to be following every single piece of law that comes out. Because again, it can wait until we get something from somewhere. And I'm happy to say that we've been working very closely on making sure that we are being proactive in those pieces. So now let me take you about what now we've been doing. Now before I go into this slide, let me tell you there is a BF local. It says harmony with the law. So anything that would come to your attention and say, well, this is now in anticipation of the policy, yes, that is indeed true, because this policy says that it takes precedent of anything that we have. And that is harmony with the law because it takes that into account, that some things take longer sometimes to become policies and adopted by you and reviewed by you. So that is in place. So we're in compliance. Now, so what have we been doing while we've been waiting for this update? Well, in September the 13th, you all had a board workshop in which you had a TASB staff come over and go over with you some of those highlights on what is on the policies for education. The education bills were clustered by topics and in subjects, and that was a PowerPoint that went to you as a superintendent's update. And it was also shared in Learning for Leaders during one of the meetings. Also, we have a spreadsheet that, again, we cluster those public education bills by topic and listing recommended activities. And there were 40 bills and 66 actions that were in place. What else did we do? Also, the superintendent's leadership team, the SLT, they reviewed their corresponding section and discussed, they had the opportunity to discuss of what was needed to be done. Also, each department continues to work on their corresponding area of implementation to ensure that we're in compliance. So, some of the things that we did, again, the PowerPoint that you received as well as the principles, it clustered and got all the education policies. Now granted, this is not TASB. This is not another group saying this is the way they need to be. This is as my interpretation of the policies and putting them by topics. So cluster, put them into curriculum and accountability, discipline, elections, finance, governance, instruction, liability, purchasing and operations, school safety, and student matters. That's the way that I clustered those policies that were related to public education, because the 85th was not only about education, it was about many other areas. Transportation was included. There's other topics that are part of that. Now, on the spreadsheet, I gave the opportunity to check for the progress of each required action. Where are we on that? Identify the person or persons responsible to assist in completing that task or that activity, and then gather confirmation that the activity, the action was in place or was in progress, that we're moving forward on that. Again, each department continues to review their area to make sure that we're in compliance. So the state role, again, that comes from the state legislature, and that was education code, government code, tax codes. Then the state agencies and commissioners adopt the rules to implement the state law and federal laws. For our schools, it's usually the State Board of Education, or TEA. We also comply many times with the Texas Department of State Health and Services, as well as the Texas Department of Agriculture. And then at the end of the day, all of those rules are housed in the Texas Administrative Code. So at the level, so the role that you play, and when you will be looking at those policies, is that as a board, you adopt those policies. Then the superintendent develops the district level administrative procedures for that and implement that policy and law. And then the campus administration needs to develop campus level rules and procedures. But it starts at what you review in those local policies. The legal policy, basically what it is just summarizes state and federal laws, as well as rules and the Attorney General opinion. And it is housed in our board policy that is online, and there are no subject for adoptions. It is the law, and that's what we do. However, when we come to the other side of the local policy, that is a clear statement by the board requiring and or authorizing action used to guide and determine present and future decisions. And that's what you do on the local policies, and that is what's supposed to happen at the district level. So the adoptions, again, you will be adopting that. The superintendent then implements those, and at the campuses, then those are carried out. So TASB, I've listed some of the items that TASB takes care of for us. Then there's some steps as when we begin to receive that update. First of all, that packet is distributed to the superintendent leadership team, so that it's also clustered and saying this goes for the different departments. And they begin to see the policies and making sure that what is now required, it is congruent to what we have in practice. In other words, we want to make sure that what we're doing, it is relevant and aligned to the law. Now, it was mentioned that indeed there was legislation as far as the amount of times that a student can leave without paying basically, and that was Senate Bill 1566. And that is something that will be coming on the update 109. You will be seeing the legal portion of that, and then you will see what the recommendations have been by the district and how then TASB will then design that policy. You will have then an opportunity not only for that particular policy, but for all of the other ones that require for you to review, and then it will be up to you to then say, yes, this is what we're going to adopt or not adopt. But you will have an opportunity to go through all those policies. But there's, not how you read a fake packet. TASB does provide with vantage points in which it summarizes the highlights of those. So then you will then be able to see those policies and see on that. And then as a board, collectively, then you'll make recommendations on how that policy would read. Then you will see then, when I look at number 3, that's exactly where your part comes, and that is during a regular board meeting, and you will have that. Now for this week's superintendent updates, I do have a very, just a few slides, step by step, on what will be the documents that you'll receive, and just kind of giving you another opportunity to kind of see that process before you actually get all those documents as part of a board packet. But we'll give you the opportunity for you to begin to see that. Then I did list here again BF local, in which it says that when the adoption and amendments may occur, And you have that, and I just kind of took a snippet out of that policy. Then after that, a memo, once you approve that, then a memo goes to the campus administrators after your approval, so they also in turn know what has been changed based on that. Then we send to, once you adopt it, we send it to TASB. TASB does all the requirements and approve policies, and then they publish the policy then online. And something that is not seen in the public, but at the bottom you will see the date that it was issued and then the date that it's adopted. And that is a big blue binder, and that is kept at the superintendent's office. And that's actually when it was adopted, and it will have that date. One thing that you don't see here, but as you see here in the presentation, you see that it says BF local and then has an A. Anytime that you see an X at the bottom, that means that that particular policy has been crafted, designed in particular to that district. It will not be the same on any other district because it has language that that particular board has adopted, but it's still aligned to what is in legal policy. And then once all of that gets done, then it's uploaded into policy online, and then the public, the community, they're able to see what that has been. But it is still a process, and we're anticipating that giving also the opportunity to the superintendent's leadership team to review those pieces, that it will probably come to you for review in January board meeting. And that's what I have for you for this evening. It's indeed a process that obviously is taken very carefully to make sure that then the recommendations that come before you are aligned to the recommendations of the different departments. But then ultimately it is you as a board of trustees that make those recommendations for adoption. I don't know if there's any, do we have any questions? Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to that update. Yes. All right, moving on to item 4C, Child Nutrition Program Procedures for Student Overcharges of Meal Accounts. Mr. Hilbert.
Good evening, President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. I'd like to take the opportunity to discuss the current procedures regarding child nutrition program procedures for student overcharges of meal accounts. And we intentionally tried to keep it fairly brief in terms of the frequently asked questions. There are a number of legal documents, some of which are referred to in the responses that are provided. But we tried to boil it down to what we thought was being questioned. However, in listening to the audience with the board this evening, there are some other things that were mentioned, and many of them are good ideas. I absolutely agree that it's fundamental to provide a nutritious meal, especially to those who don't have one. It's very difficult to learn when you don't have that. The difficult spot as your accountant that I am in is to share with you the costs associated with doing that, and then it's up to you to decide at what point the cost exceeds the benefit, if you will. And that's not an easy decision to make, as both of the gentlemen discussed today. But one of the things that I do want to be sure that you are aware of is that we have representation from our food service administration here today. We have our director is Joe Alcala. Our assistant director is Jacob Galvan. Many of you also know Lisa Tenuki. We also have an executive chef that works specifically on nutrition and menu components, Jojo Dominguez. And we also have representation from the food service, let's see, Walker Quality Service, WQS. They're here to also assist and share the fact that all of these individuals, not only are they working carefully to make sure that the district is compliant, but we also are making sure that staff members at the front lines understand how to deal with students. And it is a very difficult situation when the student has overcharged their account. And they're in a situation where they're costing the district, which is literally taking dollars from other students to feed these students. Now, I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong, but what I am here to say is that the Texas Department of Agriculture has guidelines that stipulate what you can and cannot do when it comes to those kinds of things, and the district remains compliant with those guidelines. Can I say that never has there been a situation that a food service worker took a tray from a student and exchanged it for an alternative meal? There are too many opportunities out there for that to have happened, but I am here to tell you that that is not the way they are trained. That is not the procedure. These individuals know their students, they care about their students, and in no way do they want to belittle the students at their campus. That's not what these food service employees want to do. So what generally they do, and what they try to do, is be proactive. When they see the students coming through the line, and bear in mind, we're talking about a whole gamut of age groups, from 3 years old up to 16, 17 years old. But as they're coming through the line, the workers are looking to see if they know the student had an overcharge or is pushing that limit. So when they come through the line, they let the student know that they've exceeded their limit, but they still are allowed to take the meal until they reach that 2-meal limit. That's what the procedure is right now. When they do that, when they know that a student has reached that point, then at the point of the student coming in, they're offered what is the same meal that's offered to any student that doesn't have any money or any means of getting a meal, which is the sack lunch. And it does have a sandwich, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe or Jacob, I believe, because it also has a milk and a fruit and chips, is that correct? Which exceed the minimum requirement from TDA. Is that correct, Joe, with those, and Jacob, that what is provided free of charge exceeds the minimum requirement? But yes, it is an alternative meal, and that has a negative connotation in some people's minds. But also keep in mind that that alternative meal is available to every student. So if a student comes in, they have no money, they have no account, they're not free and reduced, they can still have a free meal. They're not charged. And actually, they could do that all year long. So everyone has an opportunity. So I just wanted to speak to the fact that there may have been some instances where a tray was exchanged, but that is not the way the staff is trained, and the Food Service Administration has assured me of that. So at a minimum, I hope you can appreciate that fact. Also, would like to address what was brought up in terms of the leftover food, the possibility of sharing the leftover food with nonprofit organizations. And it certainly does have merit, and I think that is something that we should look at. Again, it was done. In fact, the gentleman left an envelope with me as he was, I think he left one with you as well. And it shows how the district at one point in time did partner with a local entity to share those leftover items. I did talk to the Food Service Administration. They were actually, Joe Alcala was with Chartwell's when the district was doing that. And what he shared with me was the problem that he ran into was that the transportation that the entity had was not sufficient to maintain proper food temperature. And so it became a health danger. And for that reason, he said that he did not feel like it was something that we should do right now, unless we can get the assurance that they can transport the food safely. So that's really all I know in terms of why we're not doing that anymore. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be willing to look at it again. We just need to make sure that we have the ability to ensure that that food is transported safely. Oh, as far as, I'm sorry.
Go continue, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just trying to go down the points that were made. They were very good and deserve a valid response. With regard to the notifications being sent home to the parents, those are sent home. I did check with Food Service Administration. They are sent home with parents. It's a bit of an inherent problem that they're running into, because with many of the young children, if they were to give the statement to the child in line, what they find is that when they throw their tray away or they throw their food away, they also throw their notice away. So what they are doing now, in conjunction with campus administration, is turning those notifications into the students' teachers, and then as they leave, the teachers hand those out. Now, whether those go into the student's backpack or not, I couldn't say. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not sure what the solution is to that problem. But I will also offer this. A very valid point was made in the fact that if we're only going to leave an opportunity to overcharge by 2 meals, then sending a notification home once a week, well, obviously there could be a problem there, and I think that stands to reason. That's true. Does that mean that the district should now consider extending the overcharge to 5 meals? Well, that's an option. Or possibly the notifications should be sent home more often than once a week. That would be another option. I do want to be, before opening for questions, real quick, want to mention the fact that as of the last week of October, we ran the numbers on student overcharges, and at that time, there were 1,372 students with negative balances on their account, and that was a total of $5,578.38. Keep in mind that that is roughly a month and a half into the school year, and the food service program is already footing the bill to the tune of $5,578. I'm not here to say that the program can't do that. It certainly can. Could you extend that to 5 days or 5 meals? Yes, you could. But I can't quantify what that would look like in terms of dollars, because the dynamics of the student population is constantly in flux. But if we're at 2 meals and a month and a half in at $5,500, roughly $5,600, and we extend that to 5 meals and carry that out to the end of the year, you can see how that could add up to a fairly significant amount of money. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I hope I addressed the things.
Mr. Flores?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure if there's a question for Dr. Gutierrez. I might have missed something in the update. Why was this brought up? Was there something in the update? Was this requested from someone, or is this requested from you as that we need to discuss this, or what? Or is this I don't think this is an annual check or something, or is this just a concern that was brought up? Which is fine, because this is something that, yeah, there's definitely some good ideas that we can address in a workshop, which I'm definitely all for that. Because yes, there were several. I think last year, as you mentioned, Mr. Hilbert, we did do this program with an entity, Meals on Wheels. I think we did the hot meals on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But to your point, there was some logistical issues that weren't meeting the guidelines, so that's why that had to stop. So, but are we bringing this back up? Was it requested by someone within the staff or from the community? I mean, I don't know, because I'm looking at the agenda item as far as personnel resource, and it says Mr. Hilberg. If it's something that we need addressed, and I'm definitely all for a workshop, and we can definitely continue this on. It's a good point. There was a comment made about, I don't appreciate the comment made against Mr. Hilberg as far as the monies. Mr. Hilberg, I know you take direction from the superintendent and this board, and the prior administration and prior leadership and prior board. So I don't appreciate that comment. That was a direction given by prior board members and prior administration, so my apologies to you on that. I'm all in for a workshop on this, so there's definitely room for improvement. I agree on that, and but I know you definitely have some oversight that you've been paying attention to, and the food services, and we can do some improvement on that. Yes, I agree, but I would recommend a workshop on this.
I think this is a topic that has gotten a lot of attention recently, especially in light of the decision that was made in the last legislative session. And a lot of questions have come in from parents as far as what actions we're going to take. We're really waiting. We have been waiting for this next update to come and really looking at some direction and guidance. So I think a board workshop would be appropriate to have further discussion. Really, we've got to make a determination on, do we want to find a common ground? There have been very many different suggestions that have come in as far as the number of charges that a student can have, or do we want to continue with the 2 charges per student?
Ms. Real?
Mr. Hilbert, can you tell me what the net cost difference is between the sandwich meal and a hot meal? Because that's really what the burden of cost is on the district. If we're going to give, we don't want any child to go hungry, so you're saying after 2 meals you give them a sandwich. So we're already incurring that cost for that. So the additional cost is really the difference between that sandwich meal and the hot meal. And then also another question, how much of that, the $5,578, I mean, that eventually has to be paid back, correct?
Well, we make every effort to collect it back, but there's not really anything that the district can do to force that to happen. To answer your first question, Joe Alcala, perhaps you can share.
The cost, let's say for instance, we have a sandwich, an apple, and a milk. The milk's approximately 30 cents just for the milk. And the apple, depending, they're seasonal, it all depends what time of the year it is. It could cost 30 cents for the apple. So you're up to, what, 30 and 60 cents. And then of course the sandwich depends what it is. If it's ham and cheese, again, that's another, you can add another 40, 45 cents. So you're over $1 that we are actually giving to the student. And so, it's, and you're correct, it's something that we have to take into consideration what they owe, plus what the district is paying out. And at one point in time, they told us that we had to track those meals, because we were told that everything's changing. Everything's changing, so we were told at one point in time that who's paying for those meals? How are you, accounting for that? And it's something that we have never really accounted for, because we just give it to the child. And so it's hard, it's really, really hard. And it's hard for us to take it away from the child also. And many times, we ourselves have paid for the child from our pockets. Because, and Lisa has been with me many times, and she'll go, let him go, I'll pay for it. But when a child goes into arrears, the first time we send a note, it's not just at the end. By the time they reach their second meal, chances are they have 2 or 3 notes already. It's not just the first one. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's very difficult for us being there, because we all come from families, we all have children, grandchildren. And like the gentleman said, I grew in poverty myself. I have family that's still in that situation. And I also tell them that apply for the free and reduced meals. A lot of them don't apply. And we chase them and we're after them. And I'm going to give you an example of Weinert. We chose a few years ago to supply, to feed the children breakfast. We're firm believers that the breakfast is the main meal they should eat. And we also know that a lot of the children don't eat that meal at home. And whether it be a muffin or whatever it might be, something in their stomach will help them when it comes to studies. And so, you know, that challenge to us is very important. We chose to do that to all across the district for the K through 5 to give them breakfast in the classroom. And it's been a challenge because there's some people who don't think that we should be doing that. But to us, it's very important. But again, at Widener, I'm going to use the example of Widener, for instance. There's approximately over 100 students that we feed free that are full pay. Somebody is paying for those meals, whether it be the free and reduced or the program. When we are given a supplement from the government, for the full pay students, we're only given, what is it, Jake, at 40 cents?
Yes.
It's 40 cents versus a reduced child that's $1.75. So we are feeding those 100 and some odd children for free when they really don't qualify for that. So again, depending which direction we head, I would love to feed everybody for free if I had my choice. But it's a matter of, we're self-sufficient. Everything in the cafeteria we pay for. The equipment we pay for. The labor we pay for. We're self-sufficient. So somehow, there has to be a break-even point. And so, whatever you all decide is what we will do. So that's what we're here for. We're here to feed the children.
Okay, so my point was, so he's, just from that, that's, you know, $1 to $1.05 just for the sandwich meal. My point is, it's not that much more to pay for their hot meal. Why give them a sandwich when it's just a little bit more to give them a hot meal?
How much does a hot meal cost?
The hot meal is approximately $1.20.
So you just told me there's 60, that we're at $1.05. So you're talking 15 cents.
Right.
That just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, and of course, that is to, and, you know, maybe I shouldn't even say this, but that is to discourage maybe the parents, to encourage the parents to go ahead and, you know, send their money for the children. And because there has to be some responsibility on both sides. So like I say, maybe I shouldn't say this, but.
I understand. I understand that, but the ones who are being punished are the children.
Exactly, they are.
And if we can come up with money for some of the stuff that I complained about, right? We can come up with money for non-essential things. We can come up with money for feeding our children. In 2 days is absurd. I'm sorry. That I feel really strongly about this 2-day thing. I would like to see it say 30 days, and I understand we want to have a workshop and discuss all of this, but 30 days may sound like a lot, Mr. Holberg, but not everybody gets paid every week. Not everybody gets paid every 2 weeks. We've got, if you have a single mom or a single dad who's relying on child support, or you've got grandparents who are living off Social Security, if they were living just above qualifying for free and reduced lunches, those kids are taking the punishment, and
they are,
and that's not acceptable.
Right, they are. So this is something that whatever you all decide, we'll do. But it's we're here as a servant for the children. That's what we're here for, and we work for them. And they are our customer. So.
And also, I know, Mr. Hilbert, you said that I found the word exchange interesting, because when I talk, I've got parents and they say, Susie came home and her friend didn't have money on her accounts, and she got to the end of the line and they took her hot meal and threw it away and gave her a sandwich. So we're throwing away a hot meal, wasting that money, and then shaming that child by giving them a sandwich. So I appreciate that that's not the way they're trained. I'm sure it's not, obviously. But I'm concerned that it is happening. And
it's hard to guarantee that it doesn't happen at the schools, because it's impossible for us to be at all locations at all times. But,
right. And I'm not putting the blame on you by any means. I want it to be made aware that it is happening. And it may be in rare cases, but I don't think it should ever happen.
We did a research, and Alfred Walker, Kim and I did the research, and I believe there were 4 schools that qualified for that we could probably do, feed them all. breakfast and lunch for free. But then the other schools, somebody will have to subsidize that. And so it's something that it's in the works. We discussed it with Ms. Gilbert. And so, again, like I say, it would be wonderful if we could get it for free.
Mr. Hilberg, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Does the food service fund still generate a positive fund balance?
Yes. it does.
So we have extra money in that budget.
Well, you have to keep in mind that that fund balance, like fund balance with the general operating fund, you have to use that either for cash flow necessity in the first of the year because reimbursements aren't coming in at the first of the year. You're still trying to figure out who qualifies. In addition to that, the district has to pay for all of the food service equipment. And so we're projecting right now, last year the department spun off about $250,000 of operational profit. But every bit of that and some was used to purchase equipment. And the same is going to be true again this year. We have a number of facilities, as will come out in the facility study, where the freezers, the walk-in freezers, the coolers, those things, those are $50,000, $60,000. You know, they're quite expensive. The transportation needs as well, the vans that are needed to move from one campus to another when commodities come in, and they're distributed centrally, they have to be transported. So while yes, the program does generate some profit, it's not an enormous amount of profit, but it is enough for us to maintain the sustainability of the program under the current scenario. And I think that some of the things that are coming to light, the difference between the free meal that's being offered and the hot meal, those are valid points. And we're not too proud to say there's no room for adjustment. We would be willing to make those adjustments. We have to look at what's that going to mean. Are we then basically a full free district? And if that's the case, if that's what the board would like to do, then we can share with you what we think the burden on the general operating fund might be, because the district is not in a position to convert to 100% and it be self-sustaining. So it would have to be supplemented from the general operating fund. But that's a decision, as with all expenses, that the board would have the opportunity to make. We just bring the information to you.
Well, I understand that, but I think what it comes down to for me is by the time you have students who are delinquent on their accounts, at some point there's going to be a portion of those who have that money paid back. So I'd be curious as to know what, with over a course of a few months or several months, of what the actual cost to the district is between what's the kids who, or the child who is overdrawn on their account, what money comes back to pay that again, and the difference between the sandwich meal and the hot meal and what that's costing the district. And I just have to believe that it's probably not that that significant of an impact to the budget that the food service fund can absorb some of that and get our kids fed properly, a hot meal.
The district rounded last year out, and it was close to $13,000. It was owed on student accounts. So
that's what was ended up being owed
at the end of last year, yes.
And so those students would, on those particular days, would be offered a sandwich lunch.
I'm sorry.
The students that didn't have the money, they were offered a sandwich lunch.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're already. Do you get what I'm saying? We're already.
I do. I just try to quantify the number for you. Where we ended last year, you wanted to know what does it look like over the course of the year.
Did we get any of that money back, of that $13,000?
Presumably we've gotten some of it back. Yes.
I do believe that money does carry over into the next year, because if you're delinquent and you're back here, but before you can graduate, you have to pay that bill. but it does carry over to the next year so that you can load up your account again. As far as what the district is making in food sales, I do believe since we brought Walker Quality Services on board, we are actually making a lot more profit. Before, when we had Chartwells here, I think we only saw probably maybe 100,000 maybe coming back, and I mean you can quantify this. I did ask Dr. Gutierrez about 3 weeks ago to put together some numbers for me and share them with the board about what we were making, about what kind of profit difference was there. So I'm interested to see those, and I was informed this evening when I questioned him that we should be seeing those in the next week or so in our update. So please watch your update. Now that money also, like Mr. Hilbert has said, is also required to fund the replacement and maintenance of all of our equipment. We've let our equipment go really, really long without taking care of our equipment because we didn't want to spend the money on it. We didn't have the money. Now that Walker Quality Services has come in and helped us find grants and items to help us feed these children for free, we are able to show more profit. And we've gone back to scratch cooking, as y'all all know. We're not doing heat and serve food, which is much better, I think. And I'd like to thank Mr. Walker for bringing that, enlightening our eyes to that. But I'm also kind of concerned as well that we're letting Mr. Walker Services go. We're letting Walker Quality Services go at the end of this term. We're not renewing his contract, from my understanding, and that concerns me. And that's the reason why I wanted to look at the profit, because that's what he does. That's what he specializes in, is getting the food there for. So if this is something we're going to look at, then we need to have somebody on board that understands what's needed to get those extra grants and stuff. So this definitely needs to be a workshop, and I think part of that workshop needs to be discussing the extension of Walker Quality Services and his services here, because his services have been very, very, very helpful to us so that we can cover things in the future as well. But I do know that we are getting more and more, and I think the 13,000 is nothing. I think what we're not accounting for is we're not accounting that 13,000 that we're actually giving a meal, a alternate meal. And so that's something we need to, I think we need to account for in the long run, is how many alternate meals are we giving? Because I know I've witnessed in the lunch lines where the cashiers are being very proactive in letting kids know, hey, you only got $1 left on your account. Hey, you only got $5 left on your account. And they usually let the students know that are usually repeat offenders of going negative ahead of time. They usually let them know in advance so that they can start prepping or getting their parents working on it, or to let their parents know. So I don't think it's not by lack of effort on the food service part, because they are out there. Those people that are in the front lines are out there and working very hard for that. So I know that this is just something that has come up, and because people on the House bill have been very in the forefront. But there are things coming down from PEA and that TASB will let us know the interpretation of the law and stuff. But I think we need to wait for that so we can, before we make any full actions on it.
Wait for the update. Mr. Jenkins?
Well, I'd like to commend the food service and part of the tours that we were doing. I've been very impressed with the quality of food that you are providing. I also must say that 4 years previous to our tour at Jefferson, I was there as a guest, and wasn't quite so impressed with the food at Jefferson. And this time I was quite pleased with the way the aesthetics, the way it looked, the heat, and the smiles on the kids' faces that were getting the food. I also was very impressed with the food service for recently having getting very few demerits in the whole city of Seguin as far as the restaurants concerned. I was surprised to see it in there, and I was scared to read it at first. But I'm very happy with what I saw. So, Mr. Hilbert, what is the process for a child to put money on their account? How is that done?
Well,
I know what it is, but I don't know all of it. Go ahead.
One of the easiest ways that we try to take the most advantage of is to be able to log in to NutriKids. There's a website, and you can navigate to it from the district's website, and a parent can very easily put
Right.
whatever amount of money.
So my son gets we get an email from my son when his account goes below a certain amount. We put money into it. Well, I guess my concern is there's people out there that don't have internet access or any way to get money to NutriKids and stuff like that. Is there a way for kids to pay cash for it?
Mm-hmm. There is, but to speak to that specifically, maybe I could have Joe, if you could, help us walk through
Yes,
that.
there's a way. They can go to the register, and go to the manager, go to the cashier, and just tell them how much they want to put into their account. And we automatically right then and there put it in their account. But yeah, there's ways of doing that. We don't take any money at the office itself.
Right.
But if they go to the
At the
school,
register.
we'll take care of it there.
Okay.
At the register.
So there may be some issues there. We could maybe do some education. Like you said, we need to do a workshop on this, but some education with the community. And, you know, if there is ways that they can, you know, get that account balance up. And I can give you a prime example. I was at work 2 weeks ago, and one of the employees that was working with me said I didn't have any money. Forgot to put money in that account, and my kid's going to get a sack lunch today, and she's going to be devastated. And we laughed at her. Yeah, you know, it's funny. But reality is, it's devastating for those kids.
It is.
Whether it's a good meal or not. And the other thing I'd like to ask, how much do we pay Walker Consulting for a year's worth of consulting?
That's just under 50,000.
I think we could solve all our problems right there by not renewing their contract. Well, some of them anyway.
But I also will tell you that that contract was paid for in itself by the amount of money that he made profited, and that's the reason why I asked about this report, because I want to show the current new board members that he covered his contract threefold, as far as what I know and what I recall. Ms. Flores, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, we were giving away money to Chartwells, and he's come in, he's saved us money, he's feeding our kids better food. And for $50,000, I think that's minor. And he's probably the one that could probably find us the grants that would take care of feeding these kids for free. Because now we're about to ask the chef that we hired from him to do that role, or you know, the management here, our people to do it. Well, if our people are more concerned about feeding our kids than finding ways to get money to feed our kids, I mean, that's what Walker does, and he does it every day for multiple districts throughout the state of Texas. And I've seen that when we decided to go with him, that was one of the big things, is he has turned around districts that were failing to provide nutritional food for those kids. And he's turned them around, he's got them feeding them and giving them opportunities to have stuff that they would probably never have elsewhere on their plate ever. And
correct.
That's why it was a long thing to do, because we were at Chartwells for 20 years, I think, and it was a tough thing to bite that bullet and pull that plug. But Walker was, I mean, we were spending how much to have Chartwells here?
I think we learn from what we do, and I don't know if we get consulted all the time.
Well, you know.
Yeah, it was my understanding that we would keep him on for a couple of years so that we could learn to develop our own skills. So, Mr. Amador.
Well, I find it's important that we have a balanced budget and we don't go into the hole. The numbers that you cited, the 1,372 students, compared to the 7,400 population, that's 18%. That's a very high number. That bears looking into it just based on the numbers.
I agree, and we do. You know, but there's, unfortunately, although you can charge them, you can't force them to pay. There's no teeth behind the legislation, and so they can rack up the charge, but the district really doesn't have any real way. Even if the student is going to graduate, their graduation is not going to be held up because they owe $5.60 on their lunch.
Right, but there are some things that can be done as far as communication with parents and making sure that we periodically explain to them the process to get money onto their students' accounts. Mr. Jenkins brought up a good point, but it's obvious that there are a lot of opinions and as there should be, because this is a critical factor, especially with students who come from poverty. And as many people are in tune with the superintendent's book study that is taking place with almost a third of our teachers and all of our administrators, that is a critical factor, and that is something that we should really pay close attention to. And I don't think that it is something that we can expect to make a decision about today, because there's a lot of thought that needs to go into what next steps do we take, how many charges do we need to allow students to have, or do we need to look at considering district-wide free lunch, or looking at those 4 schools and how will that impact the schools that are not, that can't qualify for all students being on free lunches. We need to also look at the numbers that Mr. Hilberg is going to come up with, and looking at where we've been with our consultant and what next steps are since that contract was not renewed for next year. So there's still a lot of discussions that need to happen, a lot of planning that needs to occur to prepare for making some decisions on child nutrition. It's too critical a one to make a decision tonight, but it certainly gives us an opportunity to begin planning for a workshop in the very near future. And so I do value the opinions of people in the community and our board members and administration. I do want to speak, though, to one comment on behalf of Mr. Hilberg. I just want it to be known that Mr. Hilberg did not make these decisions in isolation or independently. He took direction from leadership. So I just want to make sure that we outline that clearly.
So with all the discussion I'm hearing, we're going to have a workshop in the very near future. One question that I have is, if a student is, let's say, 2 weeks behind, does the district step in and do a home visit? Does the principal or vice principal or a parent liaison go and visit one-on-one with the parent to figure out if there's some type of a problem at home that we don't already know about, or to talk to them about their possibility of them being eligible for free or reduced lunch? Is there a one-on-one?
We don't have a one-on-one ourselves, but we do call the parents. And we call them and, we notify them that they need to put an application. Even the ones that think that they might not qualify, we encourage them to put an application out. So we do call them. And again, those 170 students that I'm talking about as liners, we are sending them, all of them, an application to the teachers so they can distribute it. I think we did that already. Am I correct, Lisa? We already did that. Yeah, but we're constantly trying.
You're distributing it through the students. Do we put it in the mail to them? Is there any personal contact with these parents other than
sometimes we do call them.
Besides a phone call?
So we call them because especially if they in October, I think the 3rd, we call them to notify them that they have not put an application out. And if they don't, they're showing them full papers. And even at that, we have a lot that say, no, I don't have time, I'm too busy, and they don't come. And we continue, and we've even gone to the extent of with the principal, because we feel that the principal, if there's a child that really is in need, the principal can actually apply for the child. And we honor that.
Okay.
So
That's good to know.
that.
All right. So the way I'm hearing it, we have 2 different topics that we've been discussing. One of them is the lunch shaming, and Senate Bill 1566, and that bill does state that the board will make a decision on the grace period. So look forward to your updates, Dr. Gutierrez. And then we also talked a little bit about lunch sharing. I'm wondering if there's a possibility of the district health committee, I can't remember the exact name of it. Yeah, have they ever looked into perhaps lunch sharing, or not lunch sharing, but food sharing, just having at each different campus perhaps a table set aside where we can have excess food, so students at lunch or at the end of the day or even in the morning can come in if there's food there that's in good shape?
I can't speak to the extent that Shaq's been involved with, but there is an arrangement for that.
Legally, can we do that?
There are requirements.
Because if somebody gets sick, then they can come back and say, you got sick, and they're going to sue the district.
There's so many things that can happen.
Yeah.
And I'm very paranoid myself.
Yeah.
Because at one time kids were putting needles in the apples and doing different things, and that's happened. But we do have a share basket And in every school, we have a share, even the
A
high
basket?
school, a share basket. And they come, they have an apple, they have a milk or whatever, they can put it in the basket. Now we want to purchase some Eagles containers, and we put ice inside, and if they have milk left over, they put the milk in there. And somebody else can come, if they want an apple, they want a milk, they come get it. Or if we're having some sort of chips or whatever, they can put them in that chip.
And a lot of times you have the athletes go and get the fruit to have available after practice. It's pretty common to see that.
Yes, yes, so we do that. So, you know, we have a, in the past that was not allowed, but it is allowed now, so we do that.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Reel.
You mentioned, I'm sorry.
Joe.
Sorry.
Yes.
Can I just ask one thing? You mentioned Weiner. Are you doing these things at all the campuses? Are you just mentioning
We look
Weiner?
at certain campuses that really have, there's no participation, and we even looked at the high school. And we also communicated with the Ms. Billings at the high school, and to notify her that, you know, we had a lot of students that were not participating. Now we have more that are participating. Last year, when we had the old high school and freshman center, our counts were very, very low. Our counts right now at the high school are up there. I mean, we're up there with 65–70% when we were at 45–50%. So we have really, really come a long ways. And but at the same time, at the elementary schools, we do that, and we notify them, and we let people know. So yes, we.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're doing this campus-wide, and not
Yes,
just
we
at
are.
one campus.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And we did that at Jim Barnes also, and we got together with the principal, Mr. Garza, and his staff, and they helped us a lot. We put all the rosters, and we put all the children, and we pulled by classroom, and we took them to the teachers. So, yes, we do.
And Ms. Reel, each month we're working at looking at how many meals are being served and breaking it down by the type of meal that's being served at each campus, and breaking our revenue, both revenue and cost, down on a per meal basis so that we can kind of get a standard across the district. So if one campus has a huge enrollment, but you look at the costs on a per meal basis, you can compare them to another district that might have much lower enrollment. And so when we run those numbers and we're looking at Weiner, the reason why Joe is bringing up Weiner so much is that they have an abnormally high full pay population there as compared to every other campus in the district, especially those that kind of have that same demographic. So there's an anomaly there, and so they're really taking a proactive approach, going back out to the parents, trying to make sure that there aren't some that just aren't filling out the paperwork. Because the bottom line is we can't fabricate or create the paperwork for them. We have to help them go through it. And that's what they're doing, and that's why he's mentioning Weiner, is because of the anomaly in terms of how many students are right now not qualified for free or reduced.
All right, no further comments or questions? Oh, one more, Mr. Jenkins.
I'd like to thank you for your help with us out with all this.
Thank you, Mr. Seven.
And if we're not using robocall to make those things, use robocall. The parents really love that, you know.
Yeah. All right.
Definitely won't pay.
I just have one more thing.
One more? One more. Then I'm cutting you off.
Okay, so we're gonna have a workshop.
We will have a workshop.
That's great. Okay, but what do we do for these children between now and the time we have board make a decision? Are we still gonna be at 2 days? Is there anything that we can do to extend that at all? Or, I mean, I know this is not an action item, but.
It's not an action item. So we'll get that workshop on the books very quickly.
But,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 4D. Discussion on board operating procedures regarding continuing education and travel. And this is something that I had just thought we should have a discussion on now that I have a year's worth of being on the board under my belt. I've been looking at some of our expenses for going to some of the conferences. And I know that there are conferences, there's one in called the one that's coming up, Winter Governance, and then there's the one in the summer summer leadership, there's a MASBA conference, there's a TASA TASB, and also there's a national one. So I guess my question is, do we really need to go to all these conferences? If you look at our policy, we really only need 5 hours a year, each of us, and I believe that we are currently budgeted for board training at $28,000. And I'd just like to have some type of dialogue about what we as a board, we need to remember students first. There's, we've been talking about lunches for kids. If we don't go to maybe just 2 conferences a year, that would free up quite a bit of money that could be used for our students in some other avenue. So, any other questions or comments? Ms. Freedom?
Thank you for bringing this up.
I had actually brought this up back last January when we were having a board workshop, and we were looking at revising some of our board operating procedures. But then there was no follow-through on it, so I'm bringing it up again.
Yeah, $28,000, the scope of the whole budget may not seem like a lot, but obviously I know how I feel about feeding kids now. TASB does require 10 hours the first year, 5 hours the second, and thereafter. So, and I place a high value on education, and I do get a lot out of the classes, but at some point I think we need to prioritize where our funds are going. And I think at a certain point you have to say that's enough money being spent on hotels and classes, and there's other avenues that we can go to get training besides going to conferences and go online. There's other ways of furthering our knowledge as board members, which I think is important. But maybe going online and accessing things that way. So I am all for cutting that budget and setting some guidelines. One thing that I definitely think needs to be looked at is, if we go to class in San Antonio, if we go to class in Austin, I don't see the need for a hotel room and asking the taxpayers to foot that bill. I just think that's unnecessary expense. And I don't know, maybe there's a reason that how it's funded ahead of time rather than submitting our receipts on the back end and getting reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
Our check registers, when the community looks at the check register online, they see what the check is cut for. There's no place for them to see what's been reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how to remedy that. That's just a concern that I have.
I do want to let y'all know that I'm all for professional development. I really am. I just think that we might need to rein it in a little bit. And I'd like to see a more focused effort so that we as a board would attend a conference together and perhaps take a look at our strategic goals after we've got everything written and try to find workshops that will help us to help this district achieve those goals. So I don't know that going to 4 or 5 different conferences is really going to be that helpful, especially when they're just kind of hit and miss, and a couple of people are going to one and 3 people are going to another, and I haven't seen all 7 of us go to one yet since in the last year. Any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Real?
Actually, I kind of think that it might be beneficial if we do, have maybe 3 board members go to like a winter governance, and then come back like we did. And I thought that was great that Dr. Gutierrez had us all share the people that went to the last one when we met and had a workshop, and the people who did go to the Dallas conference came back and shared what they learned. So if we, maybe split it up and have 3 people go to one and they've gained, and then, 3 or 4 go to another one. So I see the benefits of everybody going together, but also maybe splitting it up.
Yeah. So, other than for professional development, obviously, when you break down the dollars, if we're talking about dollar amount, you're talking about $4,000 per board member. Of course, yes, we volunteer our time for this, and the professional development we're getting is for obviously to keep up to par with legislation, and not only that, but it's more so also for networking with other districts in the state. Also, this opportunity for board members to be part of organizations, have an opportunity, if you so choose, to become a member of an organization, for example, a MASBA, of what I have been since for the past 18 years. Also, I'm a master trustee for TASB, and I regularly attend the alumni meetings, which I would highly recommend some of the board members look into becoming a master trustee, because you gain a wealth of knowledge, and you definitely get to network with your fellow trustee members throughout the state. You have an opportunity to be part of I'm also part of the TASB advocacy group, and that's definitely beneficial. So you have an opportunity to become part of different organizations, and that you're capable of bringing some of that experience back to this school district, and you will, by limiting ourselves, you will be limiting the district some of that knowledge, in my experience. So by also saying not every board member will have the opportunity to go to specific conferences. There are obviously times when I couldn't go to a summer conference or a winter governance, so there may be some times where individuals won't be able to go, so limiting individuals, you will give that person an opportunity to go. So that might be another that would cripple someone not be able to go. Bringing back and sharing, we used to do that in the past, so that's definitely a good thing to do. But I think capping board members on them going to conferences, I wouldn't recommend that, but that's just my opinion.
Anybody else? What, Ms. Real?
When I suggest that we should limit the amount of dollars that are spent, I'm by no means saying that I think we should limit our educational opportunities, because I think the more education we can receive as a board member, and the better board members we will be. I'm just saying there's other avenues that we can go to receive education besides conferences.
Any other comments? What I'd like to do is with our current board operating procedures, it discusses continuing education for board development, and that simply states that at the end of the calendar year, the board president makes an announcement as to whether everybody has reached their goal. And then it gives some pretty extensive guidelines on new board member orientation, and then that's it. So I'd like to put together a committee perhaps to further develop our board operating procedures in terms of board development. So if any of you would like to be on that committee, please let me know. You can let me know now, or you can let me know via email. But I'd like to sit down and start addressing this perhaps the week after Thanksgiving. Okay, no further discussion.
There's also been some changes to the reporting process of something I did learn at a conference was that there are changes being made to the reporting process for the amount of hours that a board of trustee has. And when you did note that it's not at the end of the year anymore, it's at the anniversary date of that trustee. But just FYI, so that would be a good thing to correctly.
So we need to update
correct.
that. Okay,
correct.
Thank you. All right, with no further discussion, I suggest that we take a 5-minute break and come back into session. It is 8:41. Item 5, the consent agenda items. The local state's consent agenda shall include items of routine nature or recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items can be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn. The items up for single motion tonight are A, approval of board minutes, regular meeting October 24th, 2017, special board meeting October 4th, 2017, and board workshop October 16th, 2017. B, approval of tax collection reports for October 2017. C, approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for October 2017. D, adoption of resolution stating review of investment policy and designation of investment officers. And E, approval of resolution approving independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities. Would any of the board members like to see any of these pulled? If not, I'd like
Madam
to.
President, I move to approve all consent agenda items as listed as you stated.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holt. Do I hear a second? Mr. Jenkins? Any further questions? Okay, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved, same sign. All right. Moving on to item 6, action item A is for us to make it official for Mr. Amador. We're going to officially have a ballot to cast votes for the Board of Directors for the Guadalupe Appraisal District for the year 2018-2019, and we'll need a resolution for the submission. Dr. Gutierrez.
Board of Trustees, the administration is recommending the Board of Trustees cast their votes for the candidate of choice. The Guadalupe County Appraisal District Board of Directors election is conducted in December, and Seguin ISD may cast their 876 votes to our own Mr. Ben Amador.
All right. Any discussion?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Amador. Second from Ms. Reel. All right. Any discussion? Not? All in favor, raise your right hand. Disapprove, same sign. Okay, moving on to item 6B, personnel action for professional employees. Ms. Whitman.
Yes, we have one election to bring forward, Ms. Marcy Walther, to replace a math teacher at AJB Middle School, 6th grade math. Marcy has 13 years with us, has great energy, is going to be a great fit. We're very lucky we found her at this time of year. There's some dynamics on why she was available, which I won't go to in this forum, but I think she's going to be a great fit for the campus. And then the 3 resignations listed below, all unexpected. Hard time of year to have these come, but they are family illnesses and things beyond some of our control. But we are working closely with admin to fill the positions, and I think in the update I keep you posted on what those vacancies look like.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve the personnel recommendation by our HR Director, Marcy Walther, and acknowledge the resignations as presented to us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. Do I hear a second? Mr. Amador, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Okay. And that does it for our action items. Moving on to item 7, We will be going into closed session. We will adjourn into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. A, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.074, 551.129, consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with legal counsel as necessary to address legal concerns, implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. And B, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, discuss personnel matters including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of employees. We have here number 1, discussion of Ball Early Childhood Center principal, and number 2, proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee. We will now go into closed session at 8:51. All right, we will convene at 9:14, reconvene at 9:14. And we have possible action on professional personnel, including employment, evaluation, assignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of employee. Number 1, possible action to select Early Childhood Center principal. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the selection of the Ball Early Childhood Principal selection.
I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any further discussion, such as the young lady's name? Laura Flack.
Laura Flack.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have a motion and a second to approve Laura Flack as our Ball Early Childhood Center principal. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2, possible action regarding... Yes. Sure. Sorry.
Board of Trustees, I'm certainly pleased to announce Laura Flack as our new principal for Ball Early Childhood Learning Center. She previously served as assistant principal at Kennedy Elementary, and over the last several weeks has been serving as interim principal. And so it will certainly be a smooth transition. At this time, I'm going to have Ms. Whitman come and share a little bit about Laura's background.
Yes, we're excited to announce Laura Flack as the new principal of Ball Early Childhood. As Dr. Gutierrez said, Laura has come from Kennedy. She spent the last 5 years there as assistant principal. Great training ground to become principal of her own campus. She has experience in teaching various grade levels at the elementary level. She has numerous trainings under her belt that she's worked not only at Potlawn but at Kennedy Elementary. Laura had told me early on she knew she wanted early childhood. She focused a lot of her coursework in early literacy and child development, and it's all come to fruition. So we're excited to congratulate Ms. Laura Flack as new principal of Ball Early Childhood.
Well, I can't thank y'all enough, Board of Trustees and Dr. Gutierrez, and especially Ms. Whitman, who's always been there from the first time I came in her office to see if there were any teaching jobs available. She was so kind to point me in the direction of Potlawn, where I felt like I was home, until I got to work with Cindy Moreno, who's here supporting me tonight, and I learned so much under her. And it's truly a dream come true to be at Ball. It's just been an honor and a privilege to work with those kids, and every day I can't stop smiling. It's amazing. And so thank y'all so much.
Okay, item 8A2, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employees. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 term contract employee.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Holt. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, last up we have board comments and requests, and I believe we've given you a few requests, so comments. I think you mentioned the band barbecue. I couldn't get that out. Matador Band barbecue is tomorrow night, so if you've never been, it's a lot of fun. The band plays at the end, and I just encourage you all to come and support the Mighty Matador Band. Anybody else? Ms. Reel?
Can we get a report or on the status at some point before the next meeting or at the next meeting from Mr. Rick has mentioned a couple of times about when the high school's completion, there might be monies coming back in and there was a grant that was applied for. I just would like to know the status of those.
Sure, we can get that to you. Tony, what would be an appropriate time frame?
You want me to approach?
No, I'm just asking appropriate time frame of this weekly update.
Well, I can certainly include what we know right now in the board update, but we're still paying. You know, we're not at a point to reconcile because the completion, not only of the actual construction is not complete, but even once construction is complete, there'll still be some funding that has to take place, bills that still come in. So once we settle all that, then we'll know exactly what we can bring back. So that, I've talked to James Bazania a couple of times. He initially was thinking maybe December, but now it's looking more like January to where actual completion is done. So sometime shortly after that. But that's always subject to some change.
Yeah, because the final civil punch list will probably not be totally completed until end of December, middle of January, which is the total final C of O. So we probably won't be able to reconcile, I would say minimum 60 days after the final completion, all payments and everything. I mean, with what I would anticipate, because I know you have some billers that come in 30 days later, and we, you know, after we send out for that last check. But
I think at least once we get the GMP finalized, that we're in pretty good shape. So all the ancillary bills from architectural and consultant and things of that nature, those we could probably go ahead and do the bulk of the reconciliation and at least start the discussion for the direction that, you know, what kind of funds would be available. Even if we don't actually take action until later, at least you could have some dollars of ballpark figures. And I would think that realistically we could do that in January.
Okay. Anybody else? No? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Holt and Mr. Flores has seconded. It is 9:21. All in favor, raise your right hand. We will now adjourn. Thank you.